So Mortal Kombat 2 is the sequel to 2021's Mortal Kombat, and just like with that film, Mortal Kombat 2 is directed by Simon McQuaid. By the way, sir, before I continue, I'd like to apologize if I just butchered your name. In the film, we follow Earthrealm's mightiest champions as they are pitted against the warriors of Outworld and to also stop the tyrannical emperor, Shao Kahn. And before I continue on with today's video, let's also start our conversation below. Out of all the roster of the plethora of Mortal Kombat characters, who is your main in Mortal Kombat? For me, like I mentioned in my review of the 2021 film, my main man, Johnny fucking Cage. Alright everybody, let's get into Mortal Kombat 2. For those of you who know me very well, Mortal Kombat is my favorite fighting game franchise of all time, as that is the one franchise that in terms of the fighting game genre, that is the one I've spent the most hours with. And if you guys remember correctly, when I reviewed that first Mortal Kombat film that came out in 2021, it was a film that, while I didn't think it was a particularly good film per se, I did find that film to be a solid enough experience to give that film a 3 out of 5. Now, have I thought that film has gotten worse over time? Admittedly, yes. So I'd probably dumb that film down to probably, I want to say, about 2.75 out of 5. I don't think the film is a bad film per se, but I don't think it's a good film, even though I do think it is a solid experience. But there are just so many things about that 2021 film that, as a big fan of the franchise, that just really bother me quite a bit. For those of you who have seen that first movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, especially when it comes down to, well, their abilities, which still makes no sense, but regardless. At the end of 2021's Mortal Kombat, they did tease that my main character, Johnny Cage, would finally, once again, after I don't know how long it was since we saw him actually in live action before he was butchered and Annihilation, a film that we will never talk about. When I had heard that Karl Urban had been cast as Johnny Cage, I was nervous because, don't get me wrong, I love Karl Urban. He's one of my favorite actors working today, but if you were to ask me who would be my top 10 choices for Johnny Cage, Karl Urban doesn't make my top 10, maybe not even my top 20, because I just don't see that man as Johnny Cage. But I will not deny this, when I saw the footage and the trailers, I did start to soften up and I started to, open my heart, because I was thinking, okay, you know what? Maybe he might be a good Johnny Cage. So like I had mentioned in my At the Theater reaction, walking into this movie, all that I wanted was an entertaining and a fun action film that was an improvement over that 2021 film. And I can happily say that not only this movie was a fun action film, it's an entertaining action film, and most importantly, it is a most definite improvement over that 2021 film. And in that regard, to me, round 2 in this case is a victory. I thought the performances were really good. They were fun performances. Now, obviously, if I were to talk about every single cast member in this movie, I would be taking up so much more time. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about 2 particular performances. One of which is, as y'all can imagine, Karl Urban as Johnny Cage, who I thought was a standout in the film. Is Karl Urban the only person I could see playing as Johnny Cage? No. There are definitely other actors that I feel like that could have done a better job as Johnny Cage, but with that being said, Karl Urban, I thought, did a really good job as Johnny Cage. Karl Urban has charisma, screen presence, and he's just a lot of fun, and you can tell that Karl Urban had a great time portraying this just larger-than-life character known as Johnny fucking Cage in this movie. When he put on those glasses and he just went, it's showtime. It's showtime. Gotta tell you all, I had the biggest smile on my face watching my boy in combat. Holy crap. But once again, and just like with the 2021 film, the MVP here with Mortal Kombat 2, without question, was Josh Lawson as Kano. Josh Lawson is an incredible Kano, and just like with the previous film, he absolutely just graces, I think it just graces this movie with his presence. His quips, his lines, I mean, there were jokes that he has in this movie that had me wheezing. I was laughing so hard. And I am hoping that one day that he will be scanned and motion captured for Mortal Kombat game, because Josh Lawson is an incredible Kano. Mortal Kombat 2 is an improvement over the 2021 film, and one of the biggest areas of improvement in this movie were the fight sequences, all the action sequences. Not only are these action sequences shot with beautiful wide angle shots, even though there are a couple of times where you can tell that some of the performers in this movie aren't the actual actors, like they're actual stunt performers. But that did not change the fact that, at least for me, that I was smiling and I was having a good time watching some good old combat happening on that big IMAX screen last night. The action sequences in this movie are not only so much fun, but even more so another big improvement. There was so much more blood, so much more gore, and yes, there were some limbs being ripped off in this movie that made this Mortal Kombat fan very happy, to say the least. Especially in this movie's case, when a fight is about to start, I felt like I was watching Mortal Kombat, like the video game being put on screen as some of the cameras were being framed up. Like, it actually felt like, you know, Mortal Kombat, like a cutscene from the game being put onto the big screen, which I personally love. Another aspect about Mortal Kombat 2 that I personally loved was just seeing how the different worlds were being showcased in this movie. Mortal Kombat 2021 I thought was a well shot film, but I do think that the overall look of Mortal Kombat 2021 was just kind of like a very grayed out movie that didn't have the most like it didn't have this, you know, color palette like the Mortal Kombat games do. What I loved about the look of Mortal Kombat 2 is that they showcase, you know, the overall, just the look of the worlds, but how colorful each world did look. Something else that I liked is that when it came down to the actual story, the story follows an actual character from Mortal Kombat and not some generic 101 character that somebody may have thrown together, and I believe it was Mortal Kombat Armageddon, which you could create a character. Don't get me wrong, Cole Young was an effort to make an original character, but that character was just so bland and so generic that seeing that an actual character from Mortal Kombat, in this case Kitana, because she really is the heart of the story in this movie, seeing that an actual character was the emotional core of this film, yeah, it definitely made me very happy.
Well, that's just fucking great!
Even though Mortal Kombat 2 for me was a victory, at the same time, it was still a very flawed victory nonetheless. While Mortal Kombat 2 does have the cast of characters that we all know and love from this spectacular fighting game franchise, there are some characters in this movie that, well, say the least, are very they're just there. Some of them were just there to just, you know, be cannon fodder, and there are just some characters that I just feel like, okay, it's cool to see you, but what's your actual, you know, purpose in this movie? And even though Kitana really is the main core, she is really the beating heart of this movie, Kitana's story in this movie is just very, very thin. I really did wish for a movie that is really centered on Kitana, even though we do see this movie happening through the eyes of Johnny Cage. I really do wish that Kitana did have a lot more to work with this movie, even though Kitana was an absolute badass this movie, do not get me wrong. I still do wish though that Kitana did have a bit more of, you know, a character arc in this movie. I actually didn't find myself getting more invested into the story until, I want to say, like, until almost the 20-minute mark of this movie. The first act of this movie, even though I do like how they established Johnny Cage's movie as that washed up action star, which I thought to be very, very cool for how they did it in this movie, at the same time, the first 15 to 20 minutes I actually found to be kind of rough. And even though Mortal Kombat 2 is a fast and entertaining and a fun action film, at least for me, but it also came to the detriment of the storytelling, of the character arcs that could have been better fleshed out, and what could have really been an even better action film.
And here we go.
So overall, while it is a flawed victory, as far as a round 2 goes, Mortal Kombat 2 for me is a victory. Mortal Kombat 2 is entertaining, it's fun, but most of all and most importantly, it is an improvement over Mortal Kombat 2021. All in all, I'm gonna give Mortal Kombat 2 a 3.25 out of 5. While Mortal Kombat 2 isn't the flawless victory that I hoped it would be, at the same time it is still an entertaining and a fun time at the movies. I hope you all enjoyed my review of Mortal Kombat 2. If so, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you guys want to see my previous 2 videos, please click the right there or right there. And of course, until my next review or video goes live, I will see you all next time.